So, when it comes down to digging up roots, in one of our previous videos, actually from about a year ago, we talked about digging sticks. In this video, I figure, let's make one. My old one finally broke. Actually, oddly enough, about a week after we filmed that last video. So, goodbye old Diggy, you were a good friend, I'll miss you. But it's time to make a new one. What I have here is an alternated leaf dogwood. My preference is hickory. At all costs I go for hickory, but sadly there's not a lot of hickory in these woods, and the ones that are left I want to leave. I want them to grow nice and healthy, nice and big, and provide hickory nuts for the future generations. So I'm going to leave the hickories alone, as much as it pains me. We do have ash in this area, but not a lot of young ones that I can really use right in the vicinity. I could walk way out, take an hour-and-a-half walk, or I could just go and get a dogwood. Alternate leaf dogwood is pretty dense, pretty strong, pretty flexible. It'll cover most of our chores. It splits funny, so prying can become a bit of an issue with it, but it'll do the job. Just going to use a pocket knife to make this one. First, I'm going to take off all these branches, trim them off. There we go. And to get the real big knots, because dogwood has a really big fat knot on it almost all the time. The saddle scars are big. So I'm going to go into a chest lever grip and pry away the wood. Like that. Like that. Like that. And this one right here, he's the nastiest. That'll do for now. We'll do the fine detail work later. I cut this with just my knife, so you can see it's pretty ragged cuts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually, with a supported forward cut, we're going to start chamfering the top. So this is going to be the butt end, the non-digging end. I'm actually going to reverse my grip and go around. And this locking method, notice that my thumb isn't in line with my knife edge, it's here. And I'm actually just twisting. I'm not pulling on it at all. I'm just twisting the knife gently. And trimming it all nice and round. I want this nice and round for two reasons. A, it looks nice. But B, this is where my hand is going to be pushing. If I got a lot of sharp edges up there from a flat cut or a pointed cut, it's going to get really uncomfortable fast. There are some styles of digging sticks out there, mostly in the American West and the American Southwest. My friend Mikhail makes them. They're really cool, from the indigenous people out there, Mandan, Shoshone, etc., where they actually put a deer antler T-grip, kind of like a shovel handle. And that is actually really useful. And the thing is, as they wear out their stick, they simply pop off the antler and put it on your digging stick. But up here, this is pretty much all that's needed. Some First Nations up here actually would leave a branch sticking out, a nice thick branch they would look for at the base of what their digging stick will be on the tree. And they can use that actually kind of like stepping on the shovel head to push it down deeper. Some would actually make stone discs and drop them down to be added weight to be able to get it real deep into the ground. But we don't really need all that stuff, especially for digging things like burdock this time of year. So what I am going to do though, is you can see there's some fractures happening on the wood here from the cutting in and prying on it a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all those away with a forehand grip. Sharp knife is always your friend. And I'm going to start tapering this. Thing is, we did some experiments with this when I was living in Wyoming a few years back. Myself, Jim Christensen, and a few of our friends like Wes and Tim. Hi guys. We found a huge field of yampa root, and yampa is a relative of the parsley family, or the carrot family, and it looks a lot like Queen Anne's lace in some aspects and very different in other aspects. And what we noticed with the root was it's only about that deep in the ground, the tuber that we want, and it's delicious. It tastes almost like a sweet boiled carrot when it's raw, with a bit of a spicy flavor to it. And when cooked, it tastes like walnut. It's a really weird flavor to find in a tuber, but I really liked it, especially for stuffing marmots and other critters that we were finding out there when we were living on the land. But we wanted to test out types of digging sticks because we had seen a lot of varieties in survival manuals and on TV shows and such. And we wanted to see which ones worked. I had experimented with digging sticks in the past, and I really wanted to put the argument to rest. What is the best style for point? This is how we carved one. Very blunt. Another one we just simply cut with an axe, chop, and it was like a flattened chisel almost. And again, very obtuse. And then I made one out of service berry, Saskatoon actually, that had a very long taper, like I'm carving on this one. And the reason I'm going to carve it on this one was that was the best one. Now, we're doing the taper very long for several reasons. First and foremost, it penetrates deeper. It doesn't have as much resistance from the ground around it, from the dirt. Second reason, it doesn't crush the tubers you're trying to dig up or break them. When it comes down to trying to dig up something like daylily bulbs or trout lily especially, you can lose the tuber very easily if you have a very thick, obtuse tip on your digging stick. So we want to make the point refined. Very, very narrow and slender. And then we're going to be putting it in the fire. So we don't want to make this thing a perfect point because the perfect points are just going to get burned off anyways. But also, if it goes into the dirt with a perfect sharp point, it ain't going to last long. It's going to become blunt very quickly. So what I'm doing is I'm going just off the pith, because the pith is one of the weakest parts of the wood. I'm just going to carve just off to the side of it. Refining the point as I go. I'm just trying to whittle down, smooth down any hot spots, or high spots, not hot spots. That's looking pretty good. This is starting to look like something that you would expect a Neanderthal to use as a spear. And we are going to use it to hunt the elusive and very dangerous burdock root. But it's not going to be very good for mastodon, I can tell you that right now. Alright. So, I'd say the majority of our carving is done. Is that the perfect tip? No, but we're going to get it perfect. What we do now is we want to do the rest of the shaping, not with a knife, but with fire. And as you can see, this is green wood, which doesn't burn very well. I'm going to leave the bark on the majority of this digging stick, mainly for two reasons. A, I'm kind of lazy, if you haven't noticed. Secondly, it's going to protect the rest of the wood from getting too badly scorched while I'm burning this end. So, we stick it in the fire, and we leave it for at least 10 minutes. And we're just going to turn it slowly every few minutes, keeping an eye on it. We want to leave it in the fire for at least 10 minutes to get a good, nice, deep burn into the wood. And then we're going to go on to the next step. As you can see, we've been charring this down. This is not fire hardening. Fire hardening is a whole different process we'll be doing near the end, but it's technically fire hardened. The end, as you can see, has been singed back. In fact, there's still a coal in there. It's burning it right down. So what we do, we take it to a rock. We got a lot of nice gravel and granite and big old Precambrian stone in this part of Ontario, so it's a good abrasive for grinding down charred wood. And this is not really any different than coal burning, just the inverted version, I guess. We're burning down the outside rather than burning out the inside. Got a nice taper though, and it's nice and hard. Just to show the difference in sound. Very blunt sounding because of all the water in it still. Really crisp sounding. Now what I can do is take my knife and actually slice off the bark. As you can see, the bark did its job. There's no charring or damage to the wood. We don't want it all charred. Really, this is the color you're looking for in fire hardening, that nice kind of rusty brown color. Can I carve the rest of this down? I can. But what I prefer to do is card scrape it, knife scrape it. Now with a fixed blade you can just go straight to it, but what I recommend with folding knives is to never trust the lock. So close it up, you got plenty of spine still out there. And I'm just slowly turning it as I go, making some weird scraping sounds against my jacket behind me. I get entertained easily out here. I'm just scraping off all the char as best I can. At the same time taking off a little of the wood, the high spots that would have been left behind from the burning. So that's good. That has a good taper to it. It's not perfect, but it'll definitely do what I want it to do. Now, for personal preference, I take off all the bark. The reason for that is bark is a waterproof skin, just like our skin. And the problem with that is, as this dries, it's not going to want to dry where the bark is. Meaning that it's going to come out at the ends that we just finished carving, which means there's a higher chance of it splitting in a very nasty way, and checking in nasty ways. Gotta love listening to those rough grouse drumming along looking for girlfriends. Now, this is green wood. Easiest stuff to carve. However, there's some detriments to working with green wood. It's also the biggest benefit to me working with green wood for a digging stick is the primary factor that you can control the flexibility of your digging stick. It's going to be very supple. If you go out and just find dead standing trees, you don't know how flexible they're going to be regardless of the species. Even a good species like hickory can become brittle by standing out in the air for years upon years. Whereas in this situation, I can actually dry this slowly and control its drying with grease or oil. Now, that's really the next step with greenwood. Greenwood will check no matter what you try to do, unless you control the drying. If you just leave this out in a shady spot or a sunny spot or put it in a wooden bag, it'll still crack or check, because the grain dries at different rates from the inside to the outside. What I can do to inhibit checking is heavily coat this with grease. Now at first, because this is so wet, the grease isn't really going to stick to it, and it's not going to really get in there. And grease can be everything from cooking oil to bear fat, which is my preference, is bear fat, to actual wood oils like linseed oil or flaxseed oil, which are really the same thing. Walnut oil, anything like that. It can be bacon fat if that's what you got. It can be any animal fats or tallows or suets as long as it's non-salted. Salt will start to degrade the wood to a degree. It's not going to be horrible for it, but it's not going to be great for it. And what I like to do is, this is a trick I learned from Nick Dillingham when talking about bow making out of green wood, is grease the stick or grease the piece of wood heavily. And I mean like saturate it. And you hang it from one end in a smokehouse. Whether that's the very uppermost part of your teepee or your wigwam or whatever it may be, or it's an actual smokehouse that you've built for smoking meats and smoking hides. And that is left in there for about at least a week, if not longer, but minimum 1 week. And the grease sticks to the creosote and other parts of soot in the smoke, and it actually goes in and penetrates deeper into the wood, kind of like how smoke helps in the tanning process of leather. When you smoke a hide, you're actually taking it to about 80% tanned when you add smoke. It binds to the fats, the emulsified fat that is being used as brain tanning, or soy lecithin, or whatever it may be that you're using, and then penetrates much deeper because of the smoke. The smoke is actually helping the tanning. Same thing with this. It binds to the smoke and helps the both of them penetrate deeper and stay longer. At the same time, the low heat and the lack of air and the lack of sun kind of acts like a kiln, and you kind of kiln dry the wood at very low temperatures. You're not burning the wood as long as you have it hung up very high inside of the smokehouse. And the reason that we hang it and not brace it between 2 points like that is if we leave it like that, gravity will start to pull at the core and start to actually bend it. Whereas if I hang it from a string from the end, gravity will keep it straight. So that's the next step. There is a curve in this piece of wood, and I can fix that by slowly bending it over my knee and adjusting it. It's fairly cool up here because it never made contact with the heat of the fire. So I can actually warm this up by the fire and bend it easier. But I'm not going to do much else to this until it's been greased. But we can put this to use right now. I can go out and dig my burdock roots right now and get us some nice vegetables for dinner tonight. So we're by this little creek. Got a nice soft gravel bank. We got young burdocks just coming up. There's a couple of wild parsnips going as well. We're just gonna get a burdock for now. Take our digging stick, and all we're doing is just loosening the soil around our little burdock buddy. Gravel is one of the easiest mediums to dig through with a digging stick and dig up tubers. It's also one of the best mediums for growing tubers because they can kind of, especially loose soil like on a bank, they can spread out quite a bit. And when they're near water, they get a lot of volume to them. So I'm just breaking the dirt. And I'm just gonna keep loosening the dirt around this little guy. It's a little tuber. Oh, there we go. There he is. There's one. There's one right here. Move my hat out of the way. Get that grass out of there. Yeah. There's another. That's how fast it can be. Shovels will cut the roots and damage them. Shovel will also make a big hole that allows nice upturned soil for invasives to get into, like dandelions and burdocks. Burdock I wouldn't consider an extreme invasive, but they are an alien species. But they taste very nice, especially this time of year when they're very young. The digging stick held up beautifully for the job. Does the job much better than a shovel or a trowel or spade could. Well, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy making your own and going out and tasting the wild.